Healthcare isn't going to happen, and it's the best thing Republicans could hope for. It's a cold civil war out there, and Democrats are just out of touch. And the government is fishing for you. That all coming up next on The Michael Newman Show.
Access denied.
I did not go.
Don't tase me, bro. No. Don't tase me. No.
What difference at this point does it make?
I feel terrible.
How is that okay?
I know words. I have the best words.
I am acting here.
I'm mouthy!
I've got a lot of things on my plate.
This isn't food!
This is garbage.
Shut up.
Because I think that's what you are entitled to.
Now you see that evil will always triumph because good is dumb.
This is not funny.
Welcome to The Michael Newman Show. I am Newman. Please go to my website, michaelnewmanproductions.com. There you can get the links for today's show. You can send me an email. It's real simple to do that. Plus, you can check out all my social media. Newmaniac1, that's my Twitter handle, Facebook, YouTube, all that cool stuff. And the services link to show you what I do here. Other than the show, I do some voiceover and some marketing services for you. So just click on that link and find out all about it. Plus, you can support the show. It's very important that you do so. That is what pays me, and that's what keeps this show going. And it's getting harder and harder every day. I will admit that. And sometimes I have to do some other things to make ends meet, and that's what's been going on at least all last week. So please help and support the show as much as you can. So what's happening in politics today? Senator John McCain absent. Oh, no. He's got an eye problem. Okay, you shouldn't be happy that a person, he's probably in a lot of pain. He had eye surgery, right? Eye surgery, not something that anyone would want to go through, but hopefully he's in a lot of pain. That's all I have to say. Don't like John McCain. I feel no sorrow for the man. Anyway, he's recovering from surgery for a blood clot in the eye. Ooh. That's just, that doesn't sound fun at all. And apparently Mitch McConnell said that they're going to defer action on this health care measure until he recovers and can come in and vote, because they're looking for every vote they possibly can for this health care bill that no one wants. No one wants it. But I don't know that it's going to be that big a deal. I don't know that waiting for John McCain is going to be that big a deal, other than maybe they can swing some people in that interim period of time. This eye surgery thing and the fact that he's going to be out a week or whatever it is gives them a period of time that they can try to find more votes, which is very, very difficult. Senator Rand Paul believes Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell does not have enough votes to pass Obamacare.
I don't think right now he does. And the real problem we have is, we won 4 elections on repealing Obamacare, but this bill keeps most of the Obamacare taxes, keeps most of the regulations, keeps most of the subsidies, and creates something that Republicans have never been for. That's a giant insurance bailout super fund. That's not a Republican idea, to give taxpayer money to a private industry that already makes $15 billion in profit.
And I think it's the best possible outcome for the Republicans that, oh, by the way, I know that I said couldn't pass Obamacare, and I meant it. Oh, he messed up speaking. No, because that's what they're passing. It's Obamacare light. It's getting rid of virtually nothing in Obamacare. It is certainly not what the American people were voting Republicans in office to do. So, yes, Mitch McConnell is trying to pass Obamacare. That's what's going on. And frankly, the fact that they don't have the votes at this point in time is the best possible outcome for Republicans. Because let me tell you, if the Republicans, after 7 years of being handed power, hand over fist, unprecedented amounts of power by the American people for mainly Obamacare, after being handed all that power, if they come and pass this Obamacare light bill that's not going to do any of the things that the American people want with Obamacare, namely a complete and total repeal, then it's not going to be good for them politically into the future. As a matter of fact, I think you could potentially see Republicans disappear as a party. It's not going to happen in one election, but over the course of 3 or 4 elections, the mainstream Republican Party will just simply go away. Now, Is that a bad thing? I don't think so. I think it's time to break up both parties, frankly. Their lock on power in this two-party system is ridiculous, and it's hurting the American people and has been for quite a long time. So it's good for them that they don't have the votes. It's bad for the American people. We're going to be stuck with Obamacare for the time being. And frankly, I just don't feel like it's possible that we're going to get rid of it. I don't think it's possible that government is going to let go of that much power. I don't think they're even capable of it or even thinking along those lines. It's going to take something pretty drastic to get government to let go of its power. Maybe if they're on a plane, I don't know, stuck 30,000 feet. There's the guy that's been out binge drinking and eating ribs. I thought this was a fun story. A person who passed gas on an American Airlines plane on Sunday afternoon forced all passengers off the jet. Yeah. Oh, my God. Wow. The incident happened when passengers on the flight became ill. Yeah, thank you. With nausea and headaches, according to a spokesman. I don't know what's wrong. It's still happening. All the passengers were taken off the plane, and what was that? Oh, double fire. I don't know what's going on here, people. I'm really sorry. I can't. I think it was a dead duck. I don't know. I'm going to have to go check something. All the passengers were taken off the plane after the incident was investigated. It was determined a passenger had passed gas. Now, American Airlines officials said Sunday night that, it wasn't farting. It wasn't farting. It was farting. Yeah. It was that fat guy there. He actually farted an entire pork rind. It's awesome. Yeah. Imagine. See, here's the difference between me and high-class people. Most people would be completely mortified by this. I and everyone I know, all my friends, would be greeted with pageantry upon returning home. There might be a ticker-tape parade. You stopped an entire plane with your farts. Can you imagine the power? They would probably get you a plaque that looks like an ass. And you would be quite grateful. You might cry at the ceremony. It is a different way of looking at life, I will admit. And possibly we can make some sort of bill that gets this person health care. I don't know. But there are many ways to look at life. There's a right way, which is everything I say, and then the Democrat way, which is not reality. House Democrats and their caucus are hesitant when asked about the party's core message. Caucus Chairman Joey Crowley was in an interview the past week, and he made the comment that the message is being worked on. The Democrat message is being worked on. We're doing everything we can to simplify it, but at the same time provide the meat behind it as well. So that's coming together right now. They're still working on message. We're doing messaging. Don't you worry. We're messaging. We're going to get the people out there to know what we stand for, and it's going to be fantastic, great, and wonderful. We know what you stand for. We do, and we've known for quite a while the American people don't want what you stand for. That's the issue that you face. And I like the way they phrase things. The phraseology of the way Democrats talk is very telling about who they are. We're doing everything we can to simplify it. Everything we can to simplify it. No, it's pretty simple. You want the power to make all of our decisions, to take over literally the minds and souls of the American people because you believe yourself to be superior. We understand that that is the goal of the Democrat Party. That is the goal of the left in general, to be in control. That is the goal of communism. Communism isn't about economics, systems. And no. That's not how it works. It's about the government being afforded the authority to take all the money, put it into one place, and decide who gets what little pittance. That's pittance, rather. Penance would be sorry, and communists are never sorry. But that's what it is. It's two classes. It's the ruling class and everybody else. It's just another phase of that monarchical type of government structure that has been on this planet for a long time. And frankly, people buy into it. And they buy into it for two reasons. Number one, they like free stuff. And communists come in, the socialists come in, and they promise a bunch of free stuff. And people hear that promise and say, well, they're going to give us free stuff. Let's try that. That's number one. And number two, believe it or not, people will live in it. Most people will live in a tyranny. They will, because at least in a tyranny, you have somebody else to blame for the plight in your life. You get to be the victim and legitimately be the victim. The reason your families are being killed and gassed, and the reason why you're starving, it's not your fault. You work hard every day. It's somebody else's fault. It's the government's fault. So you do not have to be responsible for your own actions. And being responsible for one's own actions is ultimately the thing that scares people the most. So they're willing to trade every little bit of freedom and every bit of liberty for no personal responsibility. And it's a very scary thing, but that's the way people are. Now, the question is, what is really going on with politics and the media and all these things? Carl Bernstein was doing an interview and talking about fake news, talking about the Trump administration. He was on CNN's Reliable Sources on Sunday, and he said that we're in the middle of this sort of middle of a civil Cold War. And then he goes on to explain.
The difference between Watergate and now, one of the big differences is that we are in the midst of a cold civil war.
Okay, first, the difference between Watergate and now is that during Watergate, there was an actual crime. Right now, there is no crime.
This country, a political and cultural civil war, and all of our reporting is taking place in the context of that cold civil war, and nothing quite like that existed at the time of Watergate. And that part of the Cold Civil War.
No, that's where the Cold Civil War started. That's when the Cold Civil War is the left's uprising against reality. That's what it was. When they were uprising against Vietnam and all these different things. Understand, the uprising against Vietnam was not about killing babies. That's not what it was about. It was about securing communism. The left, the hippies, like communism because they don't want to be responsible for themselves, and they believe that the government is going to provide everything and they don't have to go to work. They can be high and have sex all the time. And what they don't realize is what really happens to people in a communistic system. They don't want to accept that part. They don't want to accept that it kills people. That was ultimately the underpinnings of all the attacks on Vietnam, was this idea that they wanted to preserve communism. So we were fighting communism on two fronts. We were fighting it over there, and we were fighting it here at home. And unfortunately, the leaders at the time didn't have the fortitude to go in and actually fight a war and win it. The reason that Vietnam turned out the way it did, is because we fought it haphazardly. It was it wasn't a war, it was a police action. And we'll go over there, we'll drop a couple of bombs, we'll have some people deployed. And with this continuing war thing going on over there, then we can, spend a lot of money on the military and make our friends rich. That's really kind of what was going on. Instead of going over, fighting a war for a purpose, and explaining that purpose was the dismantling of communism around the world, instead of doing that and being very clear about it and saying, we will not allow communism to spread. Screw you, Russia. Screw you, everybody. Communism will not spread. And you have to see the same sort of scenario as what happened in Korea, and that's why it's split between North and South. Right? The North Korean communist sort of dictatorial regime is a disaster, as we all know, and a very dangerous one for everybody on the world scene. And then South Korea, it's a booming democracy where, I know a couple of people that have lived over there. I know one guy that still lives over there, and they think it's great. It's the contrast between North Korea and South Korea, the contrast between right and wrong, the contrast between what the left wants and what free markets provide could not be more clear with North and South Korea. And imagine what that portion of the world might look like if there was a free South Vietnam. Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be great? It certainly would be great for the people living there.
Itself is the configuration of media, with Fox News, with CNN being perceived by different sets of viewers as representing different truths, when in fact Fox has changed American politics as perhaps no institution has.
Yes, they have, because the left had a complete and total monopoly on information for almost forever. Then Fox News came along, recognizing that there was a yearning for a different worldview and actually maybe some facts and truth. And as soon as they hit the airwaves, it worked out well for them. Right? That's the reason why people at Rush Limbaugh was on far before Fox News, and he was doing quite well because he was the only source for a point of view that wasn't completely and totally leftist. And the American people are not completely and totally leftist communists. I'm sorry. Your worldview is wrong, and we do not accept it. That's why things have changed. And frankly, if you look at the way people talk, especially like on the internet and what have you, the leftists out there, the antifas, and we'll get to those people a little bit later on, and that group of people, that group of young people, young, dumb college kids, is actually very, very small as comparison to the larger group of people out there that simply don't accept their worldview. But the left doesn't want that. And the left doesn't care because it's not about changing hearts and minds. It's about taking over. The left's entire push is for more and more power. That's it.
Its invention in 1996, our politics has been changed inalterably by this right-wing counterforce, whatever you want to call Fox News, but also cable news itself is a different form than we had during the time of Watergate. We didn't see reporters on television discussing their stories. We do go farther on the air now by having reporters from the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN expand on their stories on.
They have an even bigger platform than they did before, with all the news and all the internet and all the cable news and what have you. They have an even bigger platform where they can go out and they can, quote unquote, explain their stories. The problem is when they start explaining their stories, then people start seeing the holes within their stories and they recognize that they're not news, they're propaganda. They are pushing a specific agenda. People have seen it for a long, long time. There is a leftist agenda within the media complex. That's what they want. That's what they want you to believe. And now that Walter Cronkite's dead and the monopoly on truth or monopoly on news has been broken, they can't just force feed people facts that aren't true anymore. They're being challenged. They don't like that. And you're right. It has changed politics in America when people have more options. When people don't have to accept what you say is being true. That changes politics, absolutely, and it changes it for the better. So thank you, Fox News, and every other source out there that has been moving this country forward. But this is the pattern of the left. First, hey, we're going to get our message right, and it'll be simpler, and it'll be great. Don't you worry about it. But we're still working on our messaging. They know what they want. They're just trying to figure out a marketing scheme to get people to swallow it. And the truth is, they simply don't understand most of the country. They understand their little pockets where they think they're important in New York, in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in these little areas of crazy, crazy leftism, which, by the way, Chicago, Illinois, it's just, from a financial standpoint, it's going down the tubes. That is a huge major city. It's going to go the way of Detroit, and we're talking about a whole state here. Detroit was a booming metropolis until the left came along, until the Democrats came along, until socialist ideas came along, and then suddenly the place is abandoned. It's absolutely abandoned and run down and a disaster to live in. That's what happens with Democrat policies. That is Democrat socialist rule at its very, very finest in Detroit, and it's happening all over this country. It's going to continue to happen. Now, Phil Donahue, a guy who used to have a talk show, was on for like 30 years and ended in the 90s, I do believe. And he's getting older. He's getting up there. So I'm going to give him a little bit of leeway here because he's not quite as sharp as he used to be. But he's on MSNBC's AM Joy on Saturday, and they had a little discussion about Trump and everything that was going on because Phil interviewed Trump back in the 80s, like 87 or something like that, and a bunch of clips were brought up. And it's basically a gab fest about Donald Trump. And the thing that gets me about this is how Democrats, how liberals, how leftists are so far disconnected from even what they say that they don't make sense, right? The hypocrisy that spills from their lips is undeniable, and it's very, very clear, but they simply don't see it because I don't think anyone in their personal life calls them on it. I've got a couple of clips here. Number one, Phil makes the point that the Trump era is the darkest moment in political history. Here's the clip. Now, hold on to your socks. Hold on. You might want to sit down for this. You might just, okay, I'll give you a 2 count. 1, 2. Okay, I hope you're sitting because the headline doesn't do it justice. This is his full quote.
All of a sudden, we got a crotch grabber for a president.
Yeah.
This is the darkest political moment in American history.
Well, at least he's not a rapist. What? Hey, for the first time in history, we got a crotch grabber as president. What are you talking about, you infantile egomaniac? We don't even have to get into Bill Clinton, the rapist. Look, if a teacher in a position of power over a student is a rapist, then what is the president of the United States when he's banging interns? Huh? Yeah. Just think of it that way. Oh, and at least he's not a murderer. You know, Ted Kennedy, had he gotten into office, we would have had a murderer in office. He was also a philanderer, and you know, he drives the chick off into the Chappaquiddick and then just hightails it, and she's drowning, and he doesn't care, right? Not a murderer, and he's certainly not his brother. Brother JFK, who was plowing every field that he possibly could. So, we got a crotch grabber. He's the worst on the face of the earth. And for those words to dump out of his stupid mouth is the most ridiculous thing. And the fact that he believes it, it's not just propaganda. He's just a guy sitting there sort of flabbergasted. I can't believe we have Donald Trump. He made a tape and he said things and I don't like it. And we've never had that before. You moron. Complete and total idiot. And now we're moving forward. There's a couple more clips here that I think are very telling. Phil goes into the question of the people that voted for Donald Trump. You know, he wants to talk about those rallies and the people who were taking the pictures. Who were those people that voted Donald Trump?
That's a variation on the theme that I think earned him so much voting power, enough to become president. He would go to these, I wondered who were these people under the, you know, they raise when he walks out in the big rallies, and they have their iPhones up here, taking his picture, and you can see the back. Who were these people? And I, slow learner that I am, and I think mainstream elite media, as he would say, also missed this story. These were people who work hard, aren't sure their company isn't going to be sold. Kids can't get a job. They're home watching ESPN. They can't get the minimum wage raised beyond $10 an hour. And he comes out in that rally clapping, and he says, "You're being ripped off." And these people said, "Yes!" And that was what put him in the White House. And I think the so-called, as he would call it, mainstream media largely missed that story. Not Bernie, but most of the mainstream media really didn't get that.
So we're all socialists now. See, Bernie Sanders understands it, but not the media. They just don't get it. Once again, they simply do not understand what we're mad about. Yes, Donald Trump comes out and says we're being screwed, And we agree, yes, we're being screwed. We're being screwed by a government that we've elected that refuses to govern the way we told them to govern. Okay? We didn't ask for Obamacare. It was shoved down our throats. And as far as they can't get the minimum wage raised above $10 an hour. Right. We don't want the minimum wage raised more than $10 an hour. How about this? Here's an idea for you. How about we drop the minimum wage altogether? How about that? You know why? Because minimum wage does not help people. This is the problem. This is the problem. The left, the liberals, the Democrats come out and say, hey, you need to make more money. We're going to raise the minimum wage. And there's a lot of people who be, hey, that's great. But smart people, people who have been around, recognize when the government comes in and artificially inflates wages, that means people lose their jobs and you're in a worse situation than you were before. Period. That's a fact. That is a fact of life. That is the way it works, not just once, not just twice, but every time it's done. Every time it's done. So when you have these compassionate leftists coming out there and saying, we're going to raise the minimum wage, what they're really saying is, we're going to take everything you got and we're going to make sure you live on the public dole forever. That way we can have control over you. That's what they're saying. They're not being compassionate. They're not being nice. They're gathering for themselves as much power as humanly possible. It's sick, it's disgusting, and it's wrong, and it's exact type of thing that we don't want anymore. We're being screwed. Who are we being screwed by, economically and otherwise? Democrats across the country. The housing crisis, you know that one? Democrats brought you the housing crisis. Why? It wasn't predatory lenders. Oh no. Those lenders that were giving money to people that couldn't afford to pay back those loans, they were forced to by the freaking government. Democrats created a bill that forced them to give money to people that could never pay it back. So in an effort to try to save their business, they would take these loans and they would package them together with good loans and they would sell them off to other banks to get out from underneath the red tape, get out from underneath the red ink. And they traded these back and forth for years and years and years until finally there wasn't enough good paper left out there to support the housing bubble that was forming, and then it all collapsed. Thank you, Democrat Party. That's exactly what happened. Of course, they're not going to admit it. Hey, we're the compassionate ones. No, you're not. You're a disaster to the economy, and you hurt everyone that you purport to help. That's the problem. Now, it's not only economically and socioeconomically that they're out of touch, but just simply the things that they say are completely disastrous when it comes to who they think they are, right? Now, this is a back and forth between Joy and Mr. Phil Donahue here. And Joy starts this, and I'm going to play the whole thing through. I want you to listen to it. And I want you to see if you can pull out what I'm going to pull out here. This is about, well, you know what? I'll just let you listen to it, and then I will comment after. See if you can pull this out for yourself.
You talked about loyalty. I want to play another clip of it, and this is about Donald Trump's loyalty. And this was a question you asked him about Roy Cohn, the infamous Roy Cohn, being his lawyer during that federal case that the Nixon administration brought for racial discrimination in his father's buildings. Take a listen.
Loyal. And loyalty is a great trait. In my opinion, it's a great trait. It's a trait that maybe can cause problems, but it's also a great trait.
Right. So now you see this guy demanding loyalty from Jim Comey, demanding loyalty, his son essentially trying to take the fall for him. What do you make of it?
Same old.
Yeah.
He's very, and he can't handle, obviously, anyone who disagrees.
Right.
How about the cabinet meeting where everybody, like bobbleheads, am I great? Am I great? Yes, you are.
Yeah.
I mean, that was icky. I mean, anybody who was capable of that and didn't see the horror of demanding this kind of public proclamations of loyalty and just total fidelity to the king.
Icky. It's icky. Oh, it's just icky. I love when the left brings up this whole loyalty thing. I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump saying loyalty is that great, unless that loyalty is to the right thing, and that's a loyalty to principle. Never have loyalty to person. But it's from where these words come that frightens me. Joy here is an African-American woman. She's a black woman. And I find it, is there a word that's bigger and more concentrated than hypocrisy? If there is, I don't know what it is. Maybe you can tweet me and we'll find out. But it is the height of hypocrisy for the left to complain about Donald Trump and his views of loyalty, because the left is all about group politics. It's all about the color of your skin. That's all they've got. It's all about your race. It's all about your ethnic background. It's all about hating white people. And if you don't buy into that, if you're a black man or woman and you do not buy into leftist politics, you don't even get your color anymore. If you're not loyal to the cause, if you're not down for the struggle for that cause, if you think differently, then you'll lose your race. And they treat you like dirt. If you're not loyal to them, they don't care. Matter of fact, they hate you even more. You have to be loyal to the left. They will accept nothing else. And if you're not, if you show even the slightest independent thought, they will destroy you. This is why the American people are so tired of what's going on. This is why the American people are so tired of leftists and their antics, and why they've been losing power for such a long period of time. And hopefully in this country, they will continue to lose power. Unfortunately, when the next crop of little idiots in colleges today becomes those that are in power, I'm afraid that this country is gone. Maybe they'll grow up a little bit. Who knows? And they say Generation Z, which is the next generation, is one of the most conservative generations. But I don't buy it until it actually happens. And frankly, I have not seen, at least in my lifetime, any sort of back away from government in any significant way, from the ever-encroaching, larger, big government. And it's coming from both sides. It's coming from the right and it's coming from the left. George W. Bush really destroyed this country. He did. And it's not about the wars. I don't care about the wars. None of that matters. Although, instead of perpetuating war, we should have spent all that money on borders and taking care of our immigration problem, because the hijackers on 9/11 weren't terrorists. They were illegal immigrants. Okay? Let's get that right. Had we fixed illegal immigration, we would not have a terrorism problem in this country. But no one wanted to do that because there's too much money in slaves in America. And what they did instead was completely rob from the American people the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. They just took it away. You no longer have it. You have no protections anymore against unlawful search and seizure. There is no such thing as an unlawful search and seizure. And one quick story to wrap things up, because I want to try to keep these things around half an hour. This is coming from the Boston Globe. When prosecutors first pushed for the power to seize telephone and internet records themselves by bypassing the need for a judge to approve a warrant, they argued the power was necessary to help them quickly track down missing children and sexual predators. But records obtained by the American Civil Liberties Union show that prosecutors have used a significant subpoena power hundreds of times a year in routine investigations related to larceny, check fraud, assault, and other crimes of the like. Under the law, targets do not have to be criminal suspects and generally unaware of the law enforcement that's tracking them. You don't have to be a suspect. They can just come look. The law allows prosecutors to issue subpoenas as long as they have, quote, reasonable grounds to believe the records are relevant material to an ongoing criminal investigation. Unlike warrants issued by a judge, prosecutors do not need to present evidence that there is probable cause to believe a crime has even been committed. Don't have to do it. This is exactly the reason why the Fourth Amendment was created. This is the exact same thing as having cops or soldiers bust down your door on a weekly basis just to look around. It is the exact same thing. And the government's just doing it. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do against the federal government? When they decide, I guess it's okay for us to break the Constitution, there's nothing the American people can do about it anymore because we've stripped them of most of their gun rights. So they're not going to rise up against us. And most people in the police department are too stupid to know what they're doing is destroying this country, I guess. And they're getting paid. Look, cops get paid to go out there and be aggressive towards people. Most police officers, that's the reason they're there. They came in as young men. They're aggressive people, and you can see it in young cops. They come in and they get to be aggressive and assert authority against others. That's why they became police officers. Well, you're a police hater. In most instances, I don't trust them. Because most of the time, they don't make the right decisions. Oh, yeah, you're going to see the videos of the cops every once in a while. Hey, we're going to slide down a slip and slide, and that's going to be cute in community. I don't care about any of that stuff. I care that you follow the law and you stand up for the Constitution every day of the week, and that's including against your own government. But most people won't do that because they're getting a paycheck from that government. So until you can prove to me that you even understand what human rights are, what American civil rights are, what American constitutional rights are under the law, and how civil asset forfeiture fits within that structure, then you're not a good cop. Because you're the last line of defense. If the cops out there were to say, no, we're no longer going to do this because it's wrong, then things would change, wouldn't they? But the police officers aren't saying that. We want to keep our civil asset forfeiture. We want to be able to look at anybody for any reason because we want the power. We're in government. We got to taste the power, and we ain't giving it up. It's called phishing, my friends. It's the reason the Fourth Amendment was created. And now, because the Fourth Amendment has been destroyed by George W. Bush, you have no protections left. All right, that is it for the Michael Newman Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please go to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com. There you can get the links for the stories that we talked about today. You can also send me an email. Just click the contact link. You can follow me on Twitter, Newmaniac1, Facebook, and YouTube. Check out the services link. Please, please, please spread the links around. When you get the links to the podcast or you see something on YouTube, please tell your friends about it. Send it around to as many people as you can. I'm trying to expand the listening audience we have here. And also support the show if you can find it within your heart. It's only $1 a month, and it helps out more than you know. All you got to do is click the support icon that's big and blue right there in the middle of the website, and it'll take you to my Patreon page, tell you all about it and how it works. Have a great evening.
Wow, see ya!